It's such a simple process.
Finally.
Yeah. But now that you see, all right, guys, sorry for the delay. We started a half hour late. So in a New York minute, that would be about a month late. But anyway, let's not waste any more of your time. Um, so, Dad, how about I'm going to let you start off the show and welcome everyone to the podcast. I'll say thanks for joining. Sorry we missed you Tuesday. I want to thank everybody for views. We've gotten over 150,000 views in the last 3 days on the channel. Thank you for all that. I want to just also add these little 15-second clips that I put up that I get 10,000 views in 30 minutes. I know they're funny, they're entertaining, and that's seems to be the lifeblood and how you make money these days. But get an attention span, people, because I want to talk sports and we do an hour-long podcast. Those are the videos that are going to lead somewhere. So I'll keep putting the stuff up to fill your little 15-second voids, but no offense. This is the type of video I want you to watch. All right, so Dad, let's talk. Sports. What topic do you think is a good one to start with?
Well, with the playoffs going, we can always talk about the playoffs. We got some very dominant baseball teams out there too that are doing quite well.
Yeah, yeah.
Football, football OTAs are available, but that's kind of
We'll hit that. I definitely want to hit that too because I know Justin Jefferson is in the last year of his contract, and he's just like last year he worked out and didn't come to them. I know they're voluntary, but just like Nick Bosa, in the last year, if you sign that extension, you get. And I know Jefferson is looking at what the Eagles just did with AJ Brown, making him the highest paid receiver in the league, and he's saying, "I had the best first 4 years ever. You're gonna pay me. I'm gonna be more than the highest paid receiver." Bosa has just got 35 million a year for with 130 guaranteed for 5 years, and Tyreek Hill got 5 years last year. If you do the math and call Jefferson the best, he might even get more than Bosa, and that's a lot to pay a receiver, but he's going to get it. I know it. But we'll get back to that. I don't want to play Scott Boras right now. So with the playoffs, what do you want to do? You want to start with hockey, basketball?
Well, we can start with hockey.
Since we actually, okay, let's start with hockey.
Well, we got, since we're both New York fans, we got the Rangers to talk about, and last night was a less than stellar performance.
They weren't themselves last night, huh?
But what's that?
They were not themselves last night.
Well,
I didn't recognize that team.
Early on, they had a couple of good chances. Bobrovsky picked them up, and that was the good Bobrovsky in there. The difference between goalies, and that should be the difference in the series, is that Shesterkin is as steady as they come, whereas Bobrovsky is prone to
the best scorer average.
Yeah, plus he is prone to having big scoring games. So last night he was on his game. Shesterkin only gave up one goal. Their second goal came in off of a Rangers stick. In soccer terms, that was an own goal.
Well, we don't have to use soccer terms, for Christ's sakes.
But
we haven't gotten into that point yet.
At least hockey, you can use your hands. You can't do that in soccer. But the last goal is an empty net goal. Of course, that doesn't go against Shesterkin's record. So Shesterkin kept them in the game. Offensively, they just didn't do it, which happens. Right. And sometimes when you have a long layoff, and they had a little bit longer layoff than Florida did. But the Rangers are already talking about moving some new guys back into the lineup that did not play last night. They brought in Filipino, but they didn't play him in. He only got like 2 minutes of ice time in the fourth or the third period, and that doesn't make sense. If you put him in there because of his speed, putting him in there that late in the game doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, how old is he?
Edel, I believe, is 25. The problem is he has suffered, although hockey never lets you know whether or not it's a true concussion. They feel that there's a
Right.
documented 4 concussions he has had. So the last time he played in I believe it was the Washington series, he played really well, and then he didn't play for 4 or 5 games because he had the lingering side effects of they think of his first concussion. And I think there's comes a point in time where you really got to take the player's long-term health into consideration.
Yeah, that point in time should be immediately,
Yeah,
like right when their career starts, considering they retire. I'm 41. I know hockey is infamous for having some Hall of Famers play at my age, but not a lot. But they don't play, 5 years past my age. Pretty much every sport. It's funny if you look. Favre retires at 40. Besides Brady, 40. You could look great at 39, good at 40. 41, you're done.
yeah.
It's and his father time's undefeated, but with it, I don't know, Dad. You mind saying your age to the world?
Yeah, 73. I have no
Yes,
problems admitting that.
right. And your health is like you were, my age. And with that being the new world where you could have another 30 years of life and that is healthy, it's kind of unfair to tell these guys, all right, good luck for the next 60 years, being suicidal, depressed, and, having headaches and, you know, ripping your teeth out and gluing them back in your mouth like Mike Webster. I
Well,
mean, it's
ultimately,
it's
it's
the
the player,
player's choice.
it's the player's choice to do it. And if the team says he should go in and he says no, I'm sure he has a physician that will go up against the team physician too. And with even
Yeah,
hockey,
well, you don't even need
they've
that, I
adopted,
don't believe.
they've
I
adopted
think if
some
you
of
don't go in, then, I guess that what you're saying in hockey is that they don't respect it, like you looking out for your health. Well, no sport does that.
the
Football says
NFL.
you're either hurt or you're injured.
I believe that hockey has adopted one of the tools that the NFL uses, and that is that they have an independent physician to examine the person. And if the independent physician says no, even if the team's physician says yes, the player's protected if they don't go in. But
Well,
the other
protected,
issue,
like technically though, right? Like what gets out between amongst coaches and GMs that talk, that is he's soft.
yeah,
That's what they,
you can't say that about Heedle. He's gotten banged up pretty good over his career. He goes after the puck
I
way
still don't believe they
too.
care.
And last night, with about 2 minutes left in the game, when it's already 2-0. Heedle got hit pretty good by one of the Panther defensemen. Didn't say if it hit him, he hit him in the head, but he shook him up a little bit. So
Hmm.
it's like, and hockey players kind of, and football players too, they don't really consider, oh, that guy's hurt, I'm going to go easy on him. If he's out on the field,
No,
and
they do the opposite. They attack,
yeah,
and if you're good enough and you
stop.
play a certain position, they will respect your career. But they, like if you're playing on a bad knee in football, especially a quarterback, I know that they don't rush you and try to rip your knee apart. But they will, you know, hit it so you have to leave the game. you know, they won't pull you down and swing you around by your leg. But because they don't want that done to them, though. That's why. It's not because it's a humanitarian act. Um, but what I'll tell you, Ruben Drones, the football running back from Oregon that played in the NFL for a decade, and I at the restaurant in Denver, he became a pretty good friend of mine, and we were talking about opening a marijuana restaurant with the biggest dispensary in Denver. They all came into my place with Ruben, who was their spokesperson, does all their billboards and commercials, and um, they have every dispensary that big as a doctor on staff because it's medicinal, who understands the science of how the cannabis affects your brain, and it came up how it could maybe possibly treat concussions indefinitely. Like CBD that doesn't get you high could what's it called? You take it as a supplement before. So if you get a concussion, the effects are less. And I remember sitting at this very long 10-person, table at the head with Ruben on the other end, and Ruben said, you know, concussions. It's such a, I play football. I just want to go on record and saying like I I hurt my leg in the year the Giants won the Super Bowl in Week 10, and this a 6th-round pick, Ahmad Bradshaw, gets in there, rushes for 90 yards on 4 carries, scores 2 touchdowns. I don't play for the rest of the season because of a leg injury. He's like, well, I couldn't. I'm a running back. I can't run if my leg's broken. But with a concussion, he's like, if I don't, if my head hurts, if I can't see quite as well, and if I'm a little disoriented, I'm gonna try because I'm a warrior. He's like, I'll die on the field, and he said any football player that doesn't have that mentality is not a football player. And he said it so calmly. It wasn't the statement, it was how he said it. And it was what I could tell is that every football player thinks like this. And it wasn't even about the money part. Because Reuben Jones, as you know, like he's a good back. I mean, running backs in football really, the Giants have proven, if anyone, you just need a good line, good defense, keep them fresh. By keeping the defense on the field, minimal times, get them a lot of carries. Eventually, if you're an NFL running back, you're going to break one. But Jones, the point is he wasn't making $10 million a year. So, even though it's good money, it was about like he wants to play. It's like you get to that level, that's your life. And hockey is probably even more so because even though most Americans aren't as into hockey as football, I mean, when you play hockey, I feel like most hockey players don't even watch other sports. They're in their own world. That game is very European, Canadian, and now
they were watching the Knicks when they were going through.
Yeah, New York. Every team has that show that they put on, but they're just hanging out. They're not watching it at home. I don't think. I think they're getting on TV in the luxury box at the Garden.
But and that's
they're not traveling to Indiana with the team.
I think that is unique to New York. If you go to the other teams that had multiple teams, like in Denver and Dallas, they actually root for the other teams and they show up at the games if their schedule allows it to. That has something to do with the size and the mentality of the city too.
I'm from Denver. The Avalanche. It's they definitely are like that. Like Avalanche and the Nuggets, they play in the same arena. They bump into each other. Mile High State. But the thing is there's 500,000 people in Denver. New York has 9 million, and in Denver, you want to go have some fun in the city. You can do that. You'd have to come to my restaurant after I closed after hours and have a private party, and you have to know me to get in. And there's only 5 people, and professional athletes with some of them. But New York, you can do that. The hottest nightclub with every supermodel girl hanging out until 6 in the morning. You have 10 invitations every night. So you'll catch the Rangers game on Sports Center. I think that's the difference, like you said, the city. But
getting back to the Rangers and what I think they underestimated the physicality of the Panthers. I know one of the writers in New York calls them the Putty Cats, but they're not Putty Cats. They're a tough team. And one of the Ranger pickups right before the end of the trading deadline has been playing on the right wing with Kreider and Zabinajad, and they think he's kind of timid or he's not a real grinder, real tough. The Rangers had signed Blake Wheeler, who really had a great career when he was with Winnipeg, I believe.
Yeah.
And he had broken his leg. They say it was a gruesome leg injury. They never said exactly what had happened. It was just a gruesome leg injury. That's hockey. They just don't tell you the extent of the injury.
Because it's disgusting if you hear it.
He's healthy again, and he's tough. He's also 6'5", and they need somebody like that maybe on the right wing, because he's going to clear some bodies and get the puck to the two scorers. This kid Rempe that they had, he did really well in the games he played, but he doesn't get a whole lot of ice time because it seems as though the other teams try to goad him into fighting, and he just can't avoid getting into a good fight. That's his mentality. Even though he does have some skill, he's also a possibility. But I think he would look to have Wheeler um, go in, and I think his name is Roslovic. He's going to sit out, but we'll see tomorrow night what they decide to do. But they do have to, you know, Florida cut off their speed, and Florida, their speed was obvious. They outplayed the Rangers, but
Well,
when you
well,
get
I
to
mean,
the
there was an empty
conference,
net. It was 3-0. There's an empty net goal, so take that out, right? And then there was the own goal, which I blame that on the goalie because if you watch it, he lost the puck. Like he should have even saved that. Like I know that that's like in basketball when you're playing defense, you don't look at the ball, or the other, in hockey, you don't look at just the forwards that are near the crease. You have to keep your eye on the puck. It's the opposite. So if you know, your team the puck happens to hit off your teammate, you're not looking at, which guy's gonna get a rebound. You have to follow that puck wherever it is, and if you look, he has no idea where it is when it goes by him.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's
that
easier said than
goal
done.
to take a 2-zip lead, that was and then not to mention the goalie's performance on the Panthers. You got to give him credit. I mean, he was great. He stopped 2 breakaways.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, like, so if, like I said, if you want to replay the game and say, all right, that own goal, that's not going to happen again. The empty netter, let's not count that. They won 2-0, but the goalie stopped 2 breakaways, so it would have been 2-1 Rangers normally because it's not just 2 breakaways, 2 Rangers breakaways where they have a team of literally snipers everywhere.
so you always have to keep in mind this is the conference finals. You're not going to sweep another team. They're too good.
No,
So if you lose one game at home, you win one game on the road, and you're back to having the home ice advantage for the 7th game. And most of the experts said that this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. So
right. It's just that you hate to lose the first game at the Garden when you're the Rangers.
so then you win tomorrow night. You go down to Florida. You win game 3, and then you're back in the driver's seat. So we'll see what happens. But look for them to make that change. And Wheeler has a good chance of replacing Roslovic. Depends on how Hedel came out of last night's game, and we'll see if he goes back in. I didn't really see the game last night, and if I do, you don't get a chance to focus on one player. Like if you do in football, you can focus on the offensive line, or you can focus on a running back, or
Well,
defense.
hey, I saw it. I have to see it because of what I do with this channel. But not only if I miss something, I try to read coverage and highlights, and I watch tape. I like to watch highlights, muted, and when I see certain things, I watch them in slow motion, like I was a coach. And last night, what I can tell you is, like 3 things that big. I already mentioned a couple. Panthers goalie was huge. And that was a big one. The empty netter and the own goal, you don't really count. So like but like the Rangers have that offense on defense. Like where was Adam Fox? He did nothing. I didn't hear his name called last night from the announcer.
He did nothing during the Hurricane series either. You never heard his name.
And all
Yeah,
right, so you don't want your defense to. I mean, that's part of how they're built. With the Rangers' rest of the roster, you don't need your offense to come from defense. It's kind of just a backup plan. But there's no breadman, no magic like from Mika, right? Like they had none of their tricks, right? And like or the rest of them, that murderers row that they call it, they did nothing. And the power play again, that um they got like this like puck off the glass late in the third, that would have been um perfect time for the for them to score, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And they and Kreider, after having that Kreider, actually I don't think we got a chance to talk about how they won with Kreider with his hat trick in the third period, and how I've been watching Kreider. I remember when he came up, but he was 12. That's why I asked you how old the young concussion victim was before I knew he had a concussion. Because remember when Kreider was on the team when he was 20, and he was on the third line, and he was lightning fast, and they wouldn't really put him in a lot, but when he was in, it was a Kreider, 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 and he wasn't, and he would always score. And I and he's now. I mean, you could argue that he's one of the best. He's the best player on the team. I don't think he'd win the argument, but he's definitely crucial to that team's success. And he was after I don't want to knock him though, because they wouldn't be here without him. He put the team on his back for the third period. It must be very hard when you're in a hockey game to score 3 goals when you're down 3-1 in the third.
He pulled the Messier in the last.
Yeah,
Messier did that in Game 6 in the Devils series in '94. He put the
yeah.
team
And
on his back, guaranteed
Messier
to
was
win.
much more impressive though, because Messier was what 35 when he did that.
Yeah, he's
Cried.
older than Kreider. Well, Kreider's 32, so
Is he really? Oh my
yeah.
God, that's right. Because I'm
Came
thinking
up.
back to when I first moved to Colorado, like in
He
2015.
came
I'm
up.
thinking Crider.
He came up in
Yeah,
2011, and he played in the playoffs right out of college.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, well, next game is going to be Friday, right?
Yes, it's every other
All
day. This series, it looks like.
all right.
And the other
So
playoff game, you had Dallas beating the Timberwolves. Luka took over the game in the fourth quarter, had 15 points, and I think he's going to be the difference in this series.
what did you see? Anthony Edwards,
He didn't have one of his better games. He played okay,
right?
but he
So
didn't trump.
I
He didn't trump
I've
Luka.
been watching Anthony Edwards this entire playoffs, and first of all, you remember. Here's what I can recap everything I've said on podcasts with Edwards with you. First, they go up 2-0, and I told you Edwards looks like Michael Jordan. He's playing the same position. He is amazingly aggressive on defense. He will leave his man to pick up another man and cause a turnover, but he'll never fail to get back and shut down his guy. He can shoot the three. He can drive into the paint. He's great at the mid-range shot, and what I love is he's not afraid to take a 17-foot jump shot, which seems to have disappeared in the NBA. They're either dunking or shooting threes, because of this new statistic that says that's layups, dunks, threes. That's what you shouldn't be taking any other shot because it's statistically stupid. I mean, and no one works and the big men are shooting threes. They run a breakaway. The guy's in the paint and he kicks it out for a three. I mean, I don't care what the statistics say. I've played basketball. I didn't play pro basketball, but certain things. It's even better that you don't play pro basketball. When you're in a breakaway, you don't shoot a 3-pointer. That's insane. You go for the layup. I understand that you're getting 50% more points, but Edwards has this. I'm like just like Jordan. Jordan was not a 3-point shooter. Was he a scorer? Did he lead the NBA in points every year? Yes, like without shooting threes, and he had Kerr on his team to shoot the threes. That's how I think that it should be used. Like you don't need everybody, and you definitely don't need your center shooting them. But that's a different topic. Edwards, though, they went up 2-0 against the Nuggets, and I said like the Nuggets weren't playing. Like where are they? And then I told you when the Nuggets went up 3-2. Actually, when they went to Minnesota and took both games and tied it, I said this. They showed you what champions are made of. That half court shot by Murray, then in game 5, I was like, that was the series. I called it. Nuggets are the defending champ. They're gonna, they showed you why. They came back from 2-0, they're up 3-2, and they're going home for Game 7. Minnesota then crushes them in Game 6, and then crushes them in Game 7. And Edwards was the guy that, in every way had over, I think in the final game he had 34 points, but he's gone over 40 so many times. I think he just passed. He's close to Brunson in 40-point playoff performances. They're like neck and neck, and that's historic because Brunson's only been matched by like 6 players in history. But Edwards does so much more than score, and he gets under the other team's skin because he's kind of an obnoxious player. We'll see. Was it in Dallas last night? I'm guessing because
no, I think it was in Minnesota.
Yeah, it seems like in the playoffs.
Right, well, let me check real quick here. But I think that Dallas finished behind Minnesota. Didn't Minnesota surprise everybody?
Yes, they did. So yeah, you're right. It was definitely. I think you're right on that.
Yeah, it was in Minnesota last night.
They surprised everyone constantly, even with the season they had. No one expected them to make a championship run, but I know Don. Don't get me wrong. He's you want to talk about the best player in the NBA. You talk about him, the Greek freak, Jokic. But you also have to, if you're a fan, and it doesn't even require a big body of work, talk about Edwards because the things that he does, they can't be flukes. Like he shoots big threes, but he's not getting lucky. He's shooting like 34%. It's nothing crazy. But he's putting up those points, but he's making great passes from the 2-guard position. He's a different type of player that you see in the NBA these days.
I think
Not to mention they have big men that play defense.
Yeah. Well, I think what's going to happen during this series, Edwards doesn't really have a superstar to back him up.
Towns is pretty close to a superstar. I know he's older.
He's coming off that injury he had. He doesn't look like he's not putting up the same types of numbers he did. And Doncic has Kyrie Irving. Kyrie had 30 points last night, plus a bunch of assists. And he plays a good Robin to Luka's Batman.
Well, it was a very close game. I mean, like, going into the fourth, the T-Wolves are up. So, like, I still stand by this statement. I made a video with sorry about that. My gimbal here just went nuts. Hold on, guys. Hold on. All right, there we go. I made a statement that, to thank the Knicks, and the video went viral. I said, hold your heads high. I mean, Anunoby came out hurt. No one expected. They thought that'd give him a spark. He hit the first 2 shots, but he couldn't play D. He's their defensive glue. So that ended up backfiring. It took him out after 5 minutes. And then Brunson goes down after making another run to bring him within 7. And it was like, all right, we've been next man up. I think I lost you there. Where'd you go? You there, Dad? I'll keep talking until you get back. It's been next man up all series. I think when Brunson, the leader, goes down, they're like, all right, we haven't quit once all year, but we're not. We've replaced OG Anunoby, we replaced Julius Randle, we replaced Bogo, we replaced Mitchell. We're not going to replace in Game 7 Jalen Brunson when we're down. And they still brought it back. They went down 17, brought it back to 10, and that's when they announced he's done for the game. And you could see when the announcement was made, you could see the players could hear the guy on the sideline saying he's not coming back. And you saw Josh Hart look over, and they went back out on the court with this look on their face. But my point is, like, Brunson's their star, and they would have beat the Celtics. I'm telling you, they beat them all year. And God damn it, and they also would have played anyone in the West tough. And I know everyone doubts that, but I said like next year with Randall healthy, or even if they trade Randall and get a better missing piece, a healthy team, they beat anyone. And who's the Knicks star right now that besides Brunson? You have Edwards, that's Brunson. They're playing very similar. Who's the Knicks number two star? They have a collection of players that will score over 20 on random games.
But the thing that you are forgetting, that even if the Knicks had come back to win, they would have never gone to the finals because Brunson broke his hand, and
Well,
he just
yes, like I
underwent
said,
surgery.
I'm talking about if Brunson didn't get hurt. I said that I told you I called that they were going to be in the finals, and I said they probably won't win. Like I hated feeling as positive as I did this year, and also at the same time, like kind of knowing that best case scenario they win the East, and then and because that's I'm 41. Like I saw that in '94. I saw it in '99, and I hate in '94 they should have beat the Rockets. I really believe that it went seven, but in '99 that would have been. I mean, the Spurs dominate, and I hate to see them make these Cinderella runs, get to the finals, and not even compete. That's hard to watch, but it's different. In '99, Ewing was finishing his career. They had Larry Johnson finishing his career. They had Sprewell at the tail end of his career. They had Marcus Camby, but he wasn't at the end of his career, but he never amounted to a bona fide offensive weapon in the NBA. They had Allen Houston is in his third. This team has everyone under 30. Like they are going to be a force to be reckoned with for a lot of years, and they have everything set. At least for the next 3 years, everybody's contracts are set, and the players that they need to sign, they'll be able to. Plus, they have tons of first-round draft picks for once that they didn't trade away in my whole life. So I started out saying that next year's the year, and I based that on the fact that when OG, Julius Randle, and Brunson are their big three healthy, they lost once. They lost. It wasn't a lot of games, but then they also went on a 9-2 tear after Randle got hurt. Like imagine if when Brunson has an off night, when Dante has an off night, that you have Julius Randle there. I mean, they're gonna compete, but that the T Wolves are built very similarly, except they're not as much of a defense next man up, but they have a lot of guys that can put the ball in the hole besides Edwards. You just don't know where it's coming from. And Towns hasn't had a regular season like he did when he was younger and before his injuries, but his playoffs have been good. Last night he wasn't great, but McDaniels, this guy, the forward that plays opposite Towns, he's good. And they also got that guy that comes off the bench, Reed. He's always putting up 15 a game. They, you know, they have players on that team. Um, and I don't know. We'll see. I think it's gonna be a good series. And like we mentioned, I do think this winner will win the title over Boston.
Well, if Porzingis comes back healthy, he's been out lately, and Porzingis really has had an impact on the Celtics this year because
Yeah, he's the
they have
reason that they're a
scoring.
contender.
They have a scoring center for the first time in a long time, and they haven't had that. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
yeah. And by the way, last night Edwards was had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. So he had a good game, but I guarantee you, without diving into the box score, if you look, I bet you he shot like 28% because he doesn't score 19 points. He's that good. He's
I
like
think.
just like Jordan.
I
But
think
Jordan
he
scored
shot.
19,
Let's see. I may be able to call up his stats right here.
and he usually has a very high field goal percentage.
Well, he didn't last night. Let's see if I can get his.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like with 19 points, there's no way he had he just didn't take. He takes his shots.
Okay, Edwards were 6 for 16.
There you go. So well, that's not that bad. That's under 50%. It's like 3 for 8.
That's 250, right?
No, it's like 3 for 8.
337.5. He shot. 6 out
Yeah,
of
it's not.
16 is
It's not
3
good.
8,
It's not awful
3
though.
8, 37.5%.
Right. There we
And
go. So,
let's see.
yeah, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to be Jordan. Even that's about what Jordan shot.
Doncic was 12 out of 16, 12 out of 26. So it's almost 50%.
Yeah.
Irving shot
33
a little bit
points.
more than and had 33. Irving was 12 for 23, and he had 30.
Doncic also had 8 assists.
Yep. So it's we'll see. It's a long series.
But yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's anytime you can count on 2 players on a team to put up 60 every game, it's that's a tough team to compete against, because in the NBA there's not really bad players. So baseball, let's talk baseball, because I know the playoffs are big and we started with them, but it's game one. So let's the Yankees and the Phillies and the Dodgers, like these teams that are hot right now. I don't
You got to
call the Dodgers hot. They have the highest payroll in sports history and the best player in baseball. Even their Japanese stud pitcher had a huge game the other day.
But you have 5 teams in baseball that are really good, and the rest of the other ones have not established themselves yet. And the only division that has 2 teams is the
AL East.
The AL East, with the Yankees and Baltimore. Cleveland only has
Cleveland Indians are another good team.
They only have 17 losses.
I'm sorry, the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, they have the Phillies, who I think have about a 6-game lead or 5-game lead on the Braves.
On the Braves.
6-game lead, and you really have nobody in the NL Central. And then you have the Dodgers out west, and they already have an 8-game lead, I think, 7-game lead on San Diego. And San Diego just hit 500 last night. So the other teams have not established themselves. Atlanta's close.
Here's the thing, though. Atlanta was the best team by far last year. Like I thought. I really thought they broke the home run record last year and had and I know they're not doing that this year, but I'm gonna go back to I had pulled up articles on Aaron Judge between April 20th and April 25th, and they were talking about his personal life affecting the game. He's playing injured. Like, they were so disrespectful, and I almost feel like it rallied him, because since that article's written, he's batting 340 with 10 home runs, and he has a 1.12 OPS. I mean, like, he's won back-to-back Player of the Week awards. He's just, he had that game where with the big home run and 3 doubles and 4 for 4. He's making big plays in the outfield. So the Braves, I know that they had these guys hitting the home runs, and they're not all doing it this year, but same thing. Azuna, he's gonna hit home runs, and I think that there's some players that, because just like Aaron Judge, when he's batting 150 with 1 home run in their first 20 games, all I knew was, well, in his next 20 games, he's going to be the best player in the league, because he's too good to. He's not going to just keep not hitting home runs. The guy is so strong. Forget being a baseball player. He hits fly balls. He's so strong that go over the fence by 50 feet. That's why, let's not forget, it's not a knock on him, but he's good because he's big and strong. He's like the tall Babe Ruth when they had nutrition and weightlifting back then. Ruth would muscle those balls out. It wasn't because of his sweet swing that he did have, and so does Judge, but it was because they're strong.
Well, I think Soto is also opening up a lot of eyes. He's, I think, much better than a lot of people gave him credit for. because now he has the opportunity to show off. The Yankees get more attention than Washington or San Diego combined, and he's performing. It's probably his best start since he's been in the. I'm
It is.
guessing that's.
I did that. I talked about that on one of my videos. It's called Soto's historic start.
And he had
he
two
had
more
one
runs
season,
last
a
night,
very similar start, and he was the MVP.
both to the opposite field. And
Yeah.
the second one was courtesy of a short left field fence in Yankee Stadium. But the first one was into the bullpen. So that was a pretty good shot. And he's going to be he's going to be a very rich guy come the off season. But one thing, you go back to look.
Well, he turned
at
down
what trades have been-
$440 million the year before last. 15 years, 440 in Washington. He turned it down.
But that was, at that point, it would have been good, but it wouldn't have been the best. And I know this sounds pretty silly, but that only averages out to $29 million a year.
It sounds
And
very silly.
everybody else is signing for 30 to $40 million a year for somebody. And that's why he said no.
But yeah, but they offered it to him in his third season. I mean, like in the middle of the year. People, it's just historic, and he wasn't a free agent. So that's the thing. Like, free agents get that big money because people compete, and you can't offer Soto money when he's signed on them for 2 more seasons. So that's why he wasn't getting 40. But they gave him 15 years at 30 million, and it's like. But I guess, like you said, maybe. But here's the thing: that scares me. He wants Ohtani money, and I think people forget that $700 million contract that he signed. Put the legal parts aside, of the weirdness of the 1 million the first year or whatever, and how the hell they're going to make that up. But he did that the year after Judge got 400 million for 10 years. So like this 10 years was new, and it was like, right when Machado signed that big deal. Then you see Harper sign a 13-year deal, and then you see Trout sign a 13, or Harper signed 15, and Trout signed. He got more per year than both of them that year. But 10 years is like, if you're a bona fide star, you get 10 years. If you're under 32, which is crazy because they're all going to be bad contracts in the last 3 or 4 years. But Soto saying that he wants to be paid like Ohtani is crazy because Ohtani got paid almost double. He got $300 million total contract value, more than Judge. When Judge came just a couple points away from winning the Triple Crown in the year he broke the home run record on the New York Yankees, and then he gets named captain. And Ohtani the next year, it's not like he has the historic year. He even tore his his elbow up, and he gets a $700 million contract, but he's a pitcher, and he's like signing 2 players. He would have gotten $500 million as a hitter because he's Aaron Judge with 30 to 40 batting average points a year higher. So on his good years, he's like Babe Ruth batting, but he pitches, and he's also one of the best pitchers. Like, how can Soto really? He's going to be rich, but do you think a team should pay him Ohtani money, or anybody Ohtani money? Shouldn't that remain highest for as long as A-Rod's contract did?
I've never really heard anybody come out and say that he's getting paid as 2 players, and that's why he got the high money.
Why? Is it that's insane?
Although it makes
why
sense.
do they think they paid him so much more than Judge when Judge batted .311, 125 RBIs with 62 home runs? To me, you don't have to say it. Yeah, but
market value.
Why did the market value change so much the next year? No one else is getting that.
It goes up every year.
But it doesn't double. 700?
Well, they wanted to make sure they got him because the New York teams came after them big. Toronto was in on it. I don't know how much Toronto offered him. Toronto couldn't afford $50 million a year. I don't think they
What
say
I
they
was told is not
but
one
I
of those
don't.
teams went over 550 million, and because like you can make an argument he's worth it because look, Colin Judge, that's more than Otani, and you can make an argument that he contributes as much as those guys do, as one player, which it means no, he contributes more because he's one player. He doesn't take up two roster spots,
Right.
and that's why they went out and signed another ace pitcher. Well, supposedly, but they
But
grossly overpaid for him too. And the Dodgers have been grossly overpaying for players for so long without World Series to show. That's why I say Yankees don't. Everyone wants to talk about Yankees buy their talent. The Dodgers buy their talent. You can't buy a World Series. You can buy playoffs every year. That's what you can accuse the Yankees of and stand guilty as a fan. But if they were guilty of buying World Series, then why did they only win one after the year 2000? And has it been 15 years since they've won it? They have won one. They've won one World Series in the 23 seasons.
well,
Buying.
that's a combination of cheapness on the part of Hal's part, and also the free agents they signed didn't have the impact that they thought. Hal was
It's just there's a lot of parity in baseball. Like when there's big teams, like there's such a small thing, and it's always about who's hot.
But it's parity amongst the top 5 teams. The rest
right.
of the league, there's only 5
Baseball is a
teams
problem
where there's parity. The remaining teams, look at Kansas City this year. Who would have thought that they were going to be in the thick of things? They're only a couple games behind Cleveland.
They're like a Tampa Bay. They somehow get these. They always get these great young teams.
Well, for the first time, I think some of their high draft choices are actually starting to contribute.
That year they had Perez and Hosmer and like all those guys on their team. They were pretty stacked with 25 and younger players that year when Salvi Perez was a rookie.
He's still their best player. I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. is good, but he's not Perez at this point in his career.
He's not Bobby Witt Sr. though.
Yeah?
He's not Bobby Witt Sr. though.
No, well, jeez.
Bobby Witt. That's a joke. I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah, he's a pitcher. He
wasn't even that good, right?
No.
I remember as a kid hearing about Bobby Witt, but he was on the Yankees for a long time, right?
I don't. If he was, not for a long.
I know he played for the Rangers. But
yeah,
he never played
Rangers.
I know he's the Rangers for most of his career. He never came to the Yankees.
I don't believe so.
I'm thinking of maybe Wick. I don't know.
I don't know.
The Wickman.
If Witt Sr. was with the Yankees, it was only at the last he was traded and he didn't do well, so they didn't re-sign him.
Sometimes with my childhood, I followed sports so closely at such a young age that when it was the baseball card era, that I get some players very rarely mixed up with Yankees just because I saw their baseball card because they were 20-year players. So I might have seen 20 years of his baseball card, and that makes me assume he's a Yankee because he's in my memory. That's all.
Oh.
But I know he pitched forever.
So,
what about the Phillies? So they're as hot as, they are as hot as a bottle rocket in July. Does that mean that you got the other part? I just said that because you live in Carolina. I figured I'll make sure you can understand me. July.
Yeah, I do understand that, but I'm not sure that there are.
Here, hot as a bottle rocket in July.
You don't really have a lot of baseball fans down here because there's no professional baseball team.
Yeah, they're skeet shooters.
And this is college football country because God forbid you root for the Panthers. They really stink. And even when they're supposed to be good.
And I hear that at least 1 or 2 players of that state are going to go to college this year too.
Oh, there's they actually come up with some good.
I know that you're going to be my viewers, so
don't forget North Wilmington, which is it's in New Hanover County, but it's the next county over from where I live, produced the greatest basketball player of all time.
Oh, come on, that's not fair. I'm
Wow.
just making a joke about how Southerners don't go to school. That was a Southerners IQ joke, and it was a joke. And if you guys
But
don't like it, don't forget you vote for Trump, so he's not politically correct. So I'm allowed to do the same thing to you. It's a joke.
I'm just, I was trying to make the point that there are other sports that they pay more attention to. Um,
Yeah, even Atlanta.
the
Atlanta, it loves Georgia. University of Georgia is on everyone's
Yeah,
bumpers in Atlanta. And the
yeah,
whole South is like that with college. It's very odd. Um,
college basketball is big in
in
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina, it's unparalleled, right?
Yeah, they got a
It's
lot of
about
good
there.
teams. Within a 10-mile, not even a 10-mile radius, you have North Carolina, you have Duke, you have NC State, you have Wake Forest too, not too far away. So it's a lot
Yeah,
of big time college programs in a very, very small area.
yes, it is. You know,
But they do
it,
have, but professional baseball is not big down here. But they did. There's a pitcher who's a recent graduate of high school here, Mackenzie Gore, who is playing right now for the um, Washington Nationals. He went over to the Nationals in the Soto trade. He looks like he's going to be a pretty good player. He doesn't have great statistics right now, though his ERA is pretty good considering who he plays for. And we'll have to wait and see. They also got another kid from North Carolina. His name is Abrams. He's their shortstop. So they did okay with that trade, but still, um, baseball is not big down here. Professional baseball is not big.
well, it's big with us. So I mean, um, and I hate that the Phillies are the team opposite the Yankees right now, but the part of me wants to stay like that because I remember them winning the World Series in '08, which was the only year the Yankees didn't make the playoffs in I believe since 1994. Um, and that's the year they won. And then the next year they go down. Cliff Lee dominates them in Game One, and then the Yankees come back and beat the out of them for them and made them look like a minor league baseball team. And I want that to happen again.
Well, we'll see what
Because
happens.
as much as
But
I love New York, I dislike Philly, and I know they have great players, but the Yankees do too. And guess what? They're the best team in the AL without their best player, which is Garrett Cole. Well, without their best pitcher,
That's
Garrett Cole,
right.
and they have no bullpen. um,
Well,
Marcus Stroman and Heel are carrying the team from the starting rotation. And here's what's great about being pitcher for the Yankees, which I love because this is when they made their dynasty run. It's the same way. You can come in, over the hill. You can come in young with electric stuff and control issues, but when you get out there, especially in home games, right? You can get out there calm because even if you give up a couple runs, you got Volpe, Judge, Soto, Tugo, Stanton coming up, and that other pitcher, while you're giving up the couple runs, is just shaking in the dugout, and
don't
they
know for
like
shaking.
well they
Your
should be.
points,
I
your
mean,
points well taken. They, you
yeah,
know,
I mean, you're
put a
pitching
lot of
against Judge when he's hot, and then Soto, who's always hot, and Doogie behind him. He's the luckiest player in baseball. I'm not taking anything away from him, but having those guys protect you in the order, I mean, Jesus, you might, if they could do, he could have 130 RBIs without hitting 30 home runs. Because he's always at bat with runners on base, and he performs well when there's runners on base.
Mm-hmm.
That game that they blew, that made me nauseous the other night, in the ninth inning, that they, went at 4-1. He had their first three RBIs, and I think they were both. I think it was doubled in Soto and Judge, and then I think he might have singled in when Judge and Soto were on again. Singled in Judge or Soto, I forget, one of them. But that kind of proves my point. They're always in the mix. And the great thing about being a pitcher is that pitching is so mental, right? And like I said, I told you that game that they should have pulled their closer, but who are they going to put in? He's not even a real closer. Sorry, Yankees fans. I don't care what his stats say. He's not. Um, and I'm not just comparing him to Rivera. He has no shutdown stuff, and you have no one to put him in if he's in trouble. So you're going to lose. But the thing is, when you're a starter for the Yankees, when they're in the dynasty, they had so many guys that are veterans. They never had rotations that went 6 deep. And it was okay because they just had to give you 4 to 5 or 6 innings of decent, and the offense was going to just take care of it. They're going to average 7, 8 runs a game. And as long as you're keeping your ERA under 5, you're good. And that's what they got. When you go in, I truly like it's Stroman. Like people look to the stat. He might be at the end of his career. He's not striking people out like he used to when he was on the Blue Jays and he was young, and the Yankees almost got him that first time. But he pitched the best game of the season the other day, and he's for the most part looked very good. And if Heal's your number 2 and Cole's your number three behind Cortez, and Cole's your ace, and you have Stroman, as your fourth, or him your third. Heal's your fourth. You have a great, and don't forget Carlos Rodon is in there. I mean, you do have a great pitching staff starting wise, which they've never even had when they were in the dynasty years.
Well, like I gave you the statistic last year, they were in contention at the beginning of the year. But
tell them that statistic. That's insane.
Because they used their bullpen so frequently last year, they were burned out by after the All-Star break. In the first 50 games in 2023, the Yankees starters only went 4+ innings in 8 games. This year, and you add last night's game because Cortez went 5, they've now gone 51 straight games where the pitchers have gone at least 4 innings. And you have a bunch of starts where they've gone 6, 7 innings. So that tends to cover up a weak bullpen, which they do have. They do have a weak bullpen. They got Canely back last night. So there you have somebody who can fill in for, he's closed before, and he can fill in for Holmes. And then you have 2 guys who are on the IL who should be coming back for the second half, in Trevino, who was the A's closer 2 years ago. And they have this kid, Scott Efroth, who they traded for from the Cubs, and he throws 100 miles an hour. And they haven't had a chance to see him pitch because he's been hurt. So if he comes back,
what about Chase Hampton?
What's that?
What about the minor leaguer, Chase Hampton?
He had some problems. They shut him down for a little bit to see how he reacts. They have a couple of guys, but
he hasn't pitched this season.
He pitched a couple early games, and then they shut him down. They are being ultra conservative, and
he's their best pitching prospect. But they also got that guy Will Warren. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, but he's
I've
still
been following the Scranton team, but the thing is, he's been getting shelled this year. He has a 7.8 ERA.
So that just goes to show you never know. And a lot of Yankee fans, they don't think they should trade all their prospects, which you can't do for a lot of reasons. But you may be able to trade some of them. But most of the prospects don't pan out.
Yeah, sure.
It's a gamble to keep them, and it's a gamble to trade them away. But you got to look at the risk reward, and I think there's more of a reward if you trade away a prospect to get a big hitter, like the Yankees did with Soto. They may regret trading away King, but he's been okay, hasn't been great. and the other guys they got for him, a couple of them are still in the minors. I believe Johnny Brito is like a bullpen guy who throws an inning or two.
I
And
like Johnny Brito.
yeah, but the other
Um,
guys are in the minors, and I like Higgy as an individual. He's a good teammate, but he really can't hit. And I think the last time I looked, he was batting 149. So I don't think they really
yeah,
lost anything. And
yeah.
Wells,
And
like,
not to mention, they got that guy Ben Rice in their minors that they think might come up this year. He's a catcher, first baseman.
yeah, and
Although whenever I see a minor leaguer listed as catcher, first baseman, I'm thinking, so he's a first baseman and a DH, or
yeah,
just a first baseman, because I don't know how you can be a catcher. Every catcher can play first base. Let's be serious.
yeah.
I mean, the catcher is the best defensive player in your team, and first base, you don't have to be limber.
Well,
Um,
so we'll see. We'll have to talk about that more next week. Looks like we
yeah,
hit our time limit.
yeah, and hey, for the NFL, real quick, let's just touch on. I see that who's the receiver the Texans just got from the Bills this year?
Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs. He didn't show up to OTAs, which is weird. I know they're voluntary. I just want to say I hate that the studs, even though they're voluntary, don't do that, especially when you're a high-priced talent coming in. Like, what kind of idiot coach? And their coach is what is it? D'Amico Ryan. He was one of their linebackers with my buddy Cushing for years, and I can't believe a coach can't get a new player on the team that's your number one talent to show up to OTAs.
Coach,
That
Coach can't do anything. That's the
well,
bottom line.
Parcells could.
What's that?
You think Parcells would have
Well,
let someone not show up? He
they
had
didn't have those
IP smoking
types.
crack and showing up.
They didn't have those rules because if you didn't show up for OTAs, you usually got cut,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
unless you know.
you didn't get your money, and that's where they've negotiated contracts with the union, and some of those things were covered, some of them weren't, and the owners wanted to make sure that there was something in there um, that guaranteed that they would show up, but they weren't able to get it. So you kind of have
It,
to live with it. And if
it's just
the
very
contract
odd to
here,
me as a player why you would want to do that.
well, my whole approach to that is the OTAs and all the controversy are about as interesting as the NFL combines. Who cares?
Well,
They're
unless
eventually
you
going to
have,
they're eventually going to sign because the owners don't want to lose stars. They're eventually going to shine.
well,
And
that yeah, but that's why I brought up Diggs. Like he left Buffalo to come there. It's his first year. He's not going to meet his new teammates. Like,
well, he's already been down there to work out with them. And
oh,
who knows what he has going on in his
yeah, I
life.
guess receivers of anybody, I guess need
So,
the least. They just need to stay in shape. But Justin Jefferson, though, like here, you hear it from me. I looked into the cut. I saw AJ Brown signed the record-breaking contract. The Eagles number two, Devontae Smith is making $25 million a year. Right? You got Tyreek Hill, who signed a $30 million a year, 5-year deal. The year I think last year, and you have I'm on Saint right. What is it Saint
St.
Brown?
Brown.
He is making. It's funny because Tyreek Hill signed 5 years, 150 million. They only were giving him a 4-year deal, so he signed for 30 million and 10 a year. So he'd be the second highest paid. So these guys don't have egos. These receivers, trust me. But
Well,
Justin Jefferson, like Tyreek Hill is like 30, right? But the other guys are young, and Justin Jefferson's 24. He's so like besides Hill, who like I said, it doesn't have the 6-year advantage in age. Jefferson is like just leaps and bounds better than those guys. I don't care what the
yeah.
stats say. You can only do so well as a receiver. Like
Well,
you're not going to catch 200 passes for
they had no
3,000
quarterback
yards.
last year throwing to him either after Cousins went down. So
That's kind of that's and well he went down too last year. So but first 4 years no receiver has as many catches, yards, or touchdowns.
so Why don't we save
And
that for our next show?
yeah, but what I was going to say,
On.
he will get $35 to $40 million over 5 years,
Yeah,
and it will be.
that's
And
why I
no
say,
receiver will get that after. They won't. The next guy will not one up him. He'll get a Nick Bosa contract. So it'll be just like that, and he deserves it.
that's why we don't talk about OTAs. They're boring.
Hey, I bet you if it was
The,
you
out,
getting $40 million, it wouldn't be boring.
the outcome is already predetermined. They're just going through the dance to get it done. That's all.
Never thought about it like that. And I know that part. I just was saying that he will get an astronomical contract. He's going to get 5 years, 175, 180 million. And they're going to guarantee him at least 130 million of it. He'll get a guarantee that's double the highest paid player right now.
Yeah. And that's the key. If he gets that, he'll sign in a heartbeat. That's all it means. It's all ego.
Well, he's gonna get that, or else he's gonna show up, play for this contract, and he'll get more in free agency.
Well, we'll talk about that when we come on in July and talk about all the signs. So
yeah.
Okay.
And all right. So guys,
Viewers,
thanks for tuning in.
watching.
And I think we have the YouTube live link clicking technology figured out.
Okay.
So guys, we won't have that issue anymore, and I'll be back on for my solo show tonight. I'll cut this up. I know this is an hour long. I'm going to cut it up into NBA, NHL, baseball, and the boring OTAs. Yeah, so you guys can watch the clips and then you can tune in for the full hour.
Okay.
I will also put chapters in here. Gotta go because it sounds like the police are at the door with the dog. All right.
I gotta go answer the door. The dog's barking.
All right. See you later.
I'll see you.
All right.
Okay.
Over and out, guys. Tune in next time.